Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack. Welcome. Check that. There we go. Welcome. This afternoon, pardon me. This afternoon had a chat with Rasa after about 3 weeks. So that was really great to catch up. Yeah, it was a good chat. So if you want to go back and watch that, just go to her channel and you can check that out. A number of things to talk about today. I wanted to start on a bit of a sad note. For those of you who have been in the YouTube comic world for a long time, 420, how's it going? For those of you who have been around YouTube comics for a number of years, Ghost Critic from the UK, Mark was his name. He passed away recently, unfortunately, from cancer. Heard from Damien, who heard from some people that have been around for a long time. So my personal experience with Mark is that along with Damien, Sleepy Reader 666, and very closely after them, Travis, Oddfellow's Thoughts, it was really Damien and Mark that I saw first and was amazed to find people talking about comics, not necessarily like the overall history or what we see now with people speculating and things. They were talking about comics they were currently picking up. They were talking about the stories. They were showing off the art. They were talking about comics that had influence on them. They were talking about their life with comics. It was the, at the time, what seemed to me the logical next step from message boards. I was a fairly big message board kind of prowler. I didn't always contribute, but often read things on, whether it was like the Southern Lord forum, there was an I Heart Noise forum. There was a bunch of different forums. So kind of the extension of that world is people now talking about their passions on YouTube. So when I kind of discovered that and realized there was people doing it, not only that, there was people in the comments that were also doing the same thing. They all had channels of their own as well. This one here, they all had channels of their own as well. So, I mean, let's just scroll through this one, for example. So Howler Mouse, still around today. League of Readers, nobody that I know. Cromda One, Wednesday Serial, Cursive Man, Freeze Master, I don't know. Doc and Howlett, Costum Bromstar appeared in these. Comic Book Mom, is that what her name was there, Damien? I think I saw you in the chat. So this might have been one of the first videos that I saw from him. I don't know exactly, but I know that I took a still from this one and put it side by side with Damien's still in my Instagram, and tagged a couple of my friends in locally who I know are into comics, and kind of said, hey, here's what I've just discovered. This is amazing. And that's when this whole YouTube world kind of opened up to me. So Mark meant a lot. Those early days of this comic book YouTube thing were pretty impactful. I was saying to Rasa today when we were talking about it that my TV and movie watching dramatically decreased once I discovered this comic world in YouTube here. And ever since, my main source of entertainment when I want to watch something is 9 times out of 10, it's something on YouTube. So he'll be really missed. He hadn't done a video for quite a few years. He also did, Rasa talks about this in her memories of him over in the live stream that we did. I don't have a timestamp or anything, but it's within the first kind of 45 minutes of our conversation. And she talks about meeting him in person and him being just as incredible in person as he came across in his videos. They sat and had a pint together while Dr. Monkeybot went digging into comics bins. So yeah, I mean, a lot of really, really great stuff out there. And thanks to Mark, and rest in peace there, Mark. Great dude, really good dude. Hello, everybody's here. Look at this. 420. Hello, Sleepy Reader. Good evening. Dan Elson, how you doing? Haven't seen his channel, but I do recall Damien mentioning him a lot. Yeah, I mean, he was a big, it's funny going to his videos now and looking and seeing like the majority of the videos with like a couple of hundred views, or a number of the videos with a couple of hundred views at the time, watching him and watching some of those first round people who were there from the very, very beginning. It's amazing. I saw them as like, you kind of, especially at that time, maybe not really fully understanding the relationship, not really caring much about it, but it seemed like some of these people were kind of like bigger than life a little bit, they were presenting stuff, even though it was poorly lit, shitty camera, mostly no edits. So sort of like a live stream, just onto a video, onto a camcorder, and then uploaded as you send out your message into the YouTube world, and just wait for the comments to come in. Because back then there wasn't any live streaming. There wasn't any live chat function yet on YouTube. StreamYard obviously didn't exist, anything like that. So there was everybody was kind of just posting videos and sending messages back and forth. But I mean, he had some really great stuff. Wonder what happened to Costin Bromstar. I know that he's still around-ish. I feel like I saw him poke his head up a few years ago, and I thought I maybe saw him on Facebook at one point. I've seen Cami online, and I know she's kind of in the general same area as he is. I'll ask her, see if maybe she's been in touch with him. Yeah, Comic Mom Audrey, she was great. She was one of my favorite channels, honestly. I found her perspective on things really interesting. She was one of the YouTubers who never showed her face. I don't believe she ever did anyway. But it was great, especially because the majority of the channels, well, I mean, if I really sit and think about it, there were some females out there. Mercy's Little Show, obviously Rasa came along, but the majority of those early people were men. So things sort of opened up after that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, and honestly, Damien, I don't know if that's weird. I would agree with that, honestly. I think that it sparked a new relationship with comics. It's always great to find people who share things that you're interested in, to share those kind of passions. So I think that really made the hobby even more enjoyable. I mean, early on, like the roundtable that Travis did, that you were on a number of times. I think I was there once or twice. Well, maybe more than that, but I don't remember. It was only a few times anyway. Just great to kind of have that cycle of videos to watch. And once the live streams kicked in, that roundtable was a Friday night occurrence. And it was fun to kind of sit together as a group, even if you were watching live and just commenting, to kind of talk about this week's new comics and where some of these stories were going. And it was enjoyable. It did have some kind of effects as you sort of trickled down. There was this, eventually, I think all of us went through some form of, I've got to get them and I've got to read them because now I've got to do this. It started feeling like it reached a point where maybe the fun part of it was starting to get lost a little bit, like it was in the early days. You felt kind of obligated to do these things. So I think part of that chased people away. It became that kind of feeling, but it was great. 60 to 70 views used to be a healthy number. Yeah, absolutely. Jason Finestone Colors, good evening. How are you doing? Yeah, the message is in a bottle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see Cami posting some great art on Instagram. Yes, okay, I've seen her on Instagram as well too, for sure, Damien. So yeah, that's Mark, and anybody who's ever interested in the history of what's kind of come in YouTube here. There's another little slice of that those early days pie. Let's start with this, shall we? I think that obligation and the rise of Comicsgate was part of why Mark left YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I think that obligation, I do remember him saying something maybe about finances and just kind of like buying too much. But yeah, I mean, Comicsgate, I think, drove a lot of people out, especially because one of the OGs, I would argue, the original Comicsgater, Captain Cummings, had kind of been a part of that group, and I think a lot of people got close to him. So when he did that turn, close as in as close as you can kind of get with YouTubers, you know what I mean? I'm sure that there were some meetings in person as well too, but I think him turning the direction that he did kind of rocked some people too, and maybe didn't want to be associated with that and just fucked off offline, because who wants that as their life, especially the way it had started, with it being really fun and really about comics community and other comic nerds all around the globe sharing the same kind of passions, right? So that sucked some life out of it for sure. Let's start here, shall we? PBS, Art Spiegelman, Disaster is My Muse, from the American Masters series. This came out just the other day. Let's see. It doesn't stream for me here in Canada, but the release date on this was the 15th, it looks like. So April 15th. I downloaded it off of the internet. You can do that sort of thing. And I watched it. It was overall, I really enjoyed it. It does a really good job of looking at Spiegelman's life from childhood to kind of his love of comics very, very, very early on, and just kind of what he contributed to the world of comics. They talk briefly about his time doing Garbage Pail Kids. And then what I'm not sure I was fully aware of, his involvement with Wacky Packages. Wacky Packages were, as much as Garbage Pail Kids played a part, for me personally, Wacky Packages, I remember those. They're very firmly cemented in my mind. And there was a couple of underground guys who were contributing to that. So I would have been living on Brett Bay in North Kildonan. So I would have been 9, 10, 11-ish, somewhere around there, because we moved away from there when I was 13. But I distinctly remember walking across the train tracks, going to an IGA and getting some Wacky Packages stickers, because we all had the old photo albums that you could put stuff in. So it's just interesting to see that kind of unfold, and maybe where some of those influences kind of seeped into my brain for cartoonists that I ended up being a real big fan of later on. The other interesting part of it was, you know, that things are no longer subversive as an art form when you have a fucking PBS documentary made about you and your little movement. So that was really kind of entertaining in a different kind of way, especially because at one point, Crumb and Elaine Kaminsky-Crumb come over to Spiegelman and Francois's house for dinner. So there's some shots with the most hated man in comics on PBS that people really want to, like, you know, cancel, or whatever the words are that they want to do with Crumb. And so that was entertaining in a really like, fuck, we're all so goddamn old kind of way. But they talk about Mouse, obviously that's the meat of it, and they talk about the history of it. The thing that I found the most fascinating, that I wasn't fully aware of, I don't think. So his wife, Francoise, when they originally met, Spiegelman did a strip, and I'm blanking on what it's called. He did a strip where he talked about his mom committing suicide and the effect that had on him, and how angry he was, etc. And Francoise says in this documentary that she read that and she was kind of stunned, because at the time there wasn't too many people, or nobody that she was aware of, who was really being honest about how they felt about something and putting it into a comic strip. And that kind of blew her mind. And she was also confused about, like, wow, he's really angry and he's talking about it on the page. It really opened her eyes to kind of what comics could be. She says that at the time she didn't have the best English. She's French, and she called him anyway, and they ended up talking for a couple of hours, sparking their kind of relationship. When they kind of finally got together at his place, he of course showed his comic collection and talked about comics in according to the documentary, according to PBS. they talked about comics their first date at the house. So he ended up showing her kind of the history of it. He, I think, at some point touched on color separations, and apparently that really caught Francois's attention, just kind of, again, peeling back the layers of how this stuff is created. And that got her very excited. They end up buying a printing press, and Francois pretty much starts Raw magazine, and it all goes from there. I also wasn't aware that she was at the New Yorker for as long as she was. Like, I knew that she was there, but I think in the documentary it said she started at the New Yorker in 1992, I think is maybe what they said. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure about that date in the 90s. Anyway, I would love to see a documentary on Francoise and stuff, and just kind of her arc and things. I think that would be really fascinating, especially because she was so hands-on with Raw. I knew that there was kind of a relationship there between the both of them, but I didn't know that she had as big of a part in it as she did. I knew she had a fair-sized part in it, but it sounds like it was basically her thing for the most part. So that was super, super fascinating. To get that kind of extra context. It was also great to see Eileen Kaminsky-Crumb mostly just there sitting at the table, but she does talk a little bit as well. So yeah, overall, well worth your time if you can watch it. What else was I gonna tell you? I think that was it for that stuff. Looking at the tabs I have open. What's this one? No. Yeah, so that's it for that. There was a mini comic convention. Oh, the Library 88. Hey, all crack sleeping, everyone. I'm looking forward to reading Dan Nadel's Crumb book. I think Dan's writing is great, and this book will be great even for Crumb veteran fans. I completely agree. I really would like a copy of that. I'm going to do once I start a job tomorrow. So once maybe a first or second paycheck rolls in, I can kind of go and pick that up. But yeah, I'm very curious to read that as well. There was a mini comic convention this afternoon here at town. And yeah, he's doing a book tour. He's actually out on a book tour, or was, because I think he got sick, so they had to cancel some of the dates there, Damien. But there was a speaking tour, a small one anyway. So it's a show that I've set up in the past, close by my house here. So Ellis, it's this direction here, and I like the space. It's $5 entrance fee to get in. It's filled with comics. There are some people selling DVDs, Blu-rays, and some toys, but it's kind of 75-80% comics. There's people selling cards as well too. One of the immediate things that I'll say about it was, first of all, I was there right at opening pretty much. I've missed quite a few local shows due to work and just finances and things like that, not being able to kind of splurge in that kind of way. But this one I wanted to kind of get to early, and it was jam-packed, which was great to see. Just kind of doing a once around the place and looking, kind of flipping through some boxes of people. I was amazed at how many sellers there were with a variety of things to sell. There was a lot of interesting stuff from table to table. It wasn't all just Marvel DC. That obviously made up a big portion of it, but there was a lot of really cool gems. A couple of sellers that I always go to because I know that they have some good stuff, but there were some other people who had boxes and had some underground comics and had some zines and just some really cool items that were just interesting to see. Nothing that I was really into buying or anything. What time were you there? 4:20. So I'll just quickly show you what I picked up. And honestly, it's so funny to say this. This is probably one of these first few things I think are my favorite pickups. Yeah, Winnipeg. That's correct. Library 88. Yep. Found some kitchen sink catalogs. Oh, you were there opening until 3. Holy shit, man. Yeah, I'm sure we brushed shoulders. I probably elbowed you out of the way once or twice. Maybe we were fighting over the same dirty piece of smut, possibly at one point. So a few kitchen sink catalogs. This is from 1992, one from 1993, and one from, what is this, 1996. So these are great. I love this stuff. I think I've got a Ripoff Press one. I think I got a Fantagraphics one. I just really like these kind of mini time capsules of that era when you were ordering straight from them, or you could request a free catalog to come in the mail. I haven't sat and looked through these kitchen sink ones yet. I'm going to show you one other catalog that I got that I did sit and look through already, and it was great, selling the Complete Crumb, ads for the Complete Crumb. So yeah, this is a fun little time capsule for me. These things, I could see myself picking these up anytime I kind of lay eyes on them for a variety of companies. I'd love a nice kind of stack of these. So the one that I've never seen before. Big fan of NBM and European comics, as you know, if you've been watching the channel. So this is a fall of 1998, like magazine size catalog, order form on the back, ready to fill out. No mailing address on it, which is always kind of a bummer. It would be fun to get some more of these things with someone with a sticker of someone's address, just to kind of give it that personal touch. So this one is exactly as you'd think. Just a really great look. It's on this nice glossy paper too. The images are really sharp. It's a really good production actually for this catalog, as thin as it is. One of the things that caught my attention on this one was when we get into the erotica section and amoerotica. Of course, there's a couple of pages dedicated to Milo Manara. Of course, there would be. I found, so Gaspar Noé is probably one of the more interesting film directors that I genuinely enjoy his movies, as dark and depressing as they are. I really kind of like a number of them. He wrote this comic called The Convent of Hell. I think I might have read it digitally. It's this one here. I didn't know that he had done comics. It turns out he hasn't done a comic. He did two of them. The other one being called Doctor, I'm Too Big. So Gaspar Noé, he really likes to push boundaries. The Convent of Hell was a just insane comic. I can only imagine how absurd Doctor, I'm Too Big is. But that's one that I'm keeping my eyes out for. And I think that's the other fun thing about these catalogs, is kind of acting as a bit of a checklist to kind of get your attention to stuff that you don't know about before. So Creepacks as well too, of course. So great. Really, really great. Very nice pickup on that one there. Let's see. Till 3. I hate con openings, though. I think people are very pushy. Yeah. It's like Black Friday sale footage. Not that bad, of course, but had a guy even try to dig through the same bin as me at the same time I was going to flip. Yeah. That's really... yeah, people are intense, man. Those catalogs are cool. They remind me I live only an hour and change from Bud Plant, who supposedly still has a lot of leftover stock from the old days for sale. Shut up, Dan Elson. You got to get there. You've got to get there. Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, it's 100% the same guy. I was blown away. That it was him. Ship of Fools and Piano Tuner 2. If you're talking Gaspar Noé movies, no. Those ones I don't believe are his, unless you saw some books in there as well, too. There's a copy of Doctor, I'm Too Big at my local used bookstore. Haven't felt inclined to grab it, though. Dan Elson, I sent you an email about sending you a package. Do a brother a solid. If it's there, could I convince you to pick that up for me? Because I would love to have Gaspar Noé. Peter Piper picked a pair of pickled peppers. I'm not that high yet. I could still say that. I love old comic catalogs. I tabled at a small show and sold some old bud plant catalogs. Now I want them back. Yeah, I've got a couple of bud plant catalogs in the collection somewhere. Picked a pack. Yeah, I was picked a pack. So what did I say? Picked a pair? Maybe I am too high. What else did I end up grabbing? The big splurge for me at this one was, all right, I'll show this one first. So there's this kind of hippie. I ain't saying that one. There's this kind of hippie guy who I always love going to see because all of his stuff smells like dope, as it should. And he had some really interesting stuff. I always get something from him. This was part of my kind of first whip around. This series of movies, The Blind Dead, Armando de Osorio. When I sell things, it's pretty rare that I regret selling a lot of the stuff that I have. I had the box set of these movies that also had a documentary in it as well. It was in this kind of, it was Blue Underground, I think, and it was in this sort of coffin-like case. And I ended up selling it because it was just too good of a price not to sell. But I do regret it. I would love to see these again. Big fan of the Cave Evil guys, the gamer guys, and there's something about these specific characters that I feel like they may have got some influence from for their promotional material. So this looks like it'll be a pretty fun read. Midnight Media Publishing is who it's from. So just kind of talking about the movies. I'm sure there's going to be some interviews as well. Return of the Evil Dead. So yeah, really, really fun stuff. There you go. So he had a few kind of film related magazines, but again, I was there to dig, and I had already seen these two books that I'm going to show you right now. When I first got in, table to my left, he had some pretty great underground comics. He had a very early printing of Zap #1. I think it was a 35-cent cover. I can't remember if that's like the fourth or the fifth printing, but a very early printing of that I almost picked up until I saw these two and figured I had to get them. I talked him down $5. They still cost me $20 for the two books. I kind of don't care because I've wanted them for a long time. It's Bigfoot, Steve Niles, Rob Zombie, and Richard Corbin. So some Corbin stuff that I've never seen these in person. $4.20. I can't remember if you had shown off one of these in one of your videos. Do you have a copy of this series? Maybe I'm thinking someone else. So issues number 1 and 3. I don't know how many there were. We'll have a quick look inside as well. So I think the thing that I wasn't aware of was that Rob Zombie was involved in this. Mellow Mary mashed many magical marijuana muffins on misty mountain mornings. There you go. I said it. So here we go. Here's a look at the interiors there for the Bigfoot. So I first saw them and then did a cycle around, saw a number of things, but had to come back. I couldn't let these pass by me. I couldn't leave them behind. I'm glad I could entertain you, Chris. It's what I'm here for every Sunday. What am I, a fucking clown? I amuse you. So yeah, looks like a fun book. So there was a guy there as well who I've seen in the past. I think he used to have a spot at Thirsties as well. He's always got some really cool stuff, and I don't want to shit talk anybody. That's not my intent. He has some stuff. He has this Wicked Wanda book that I've wanted. I've seen him years ago at this point with that book, and it was the same one that he still had with the exact same prices a couple of years. There wasn't anybody at his table. He had some Eric Stanton stuff. He had some, there was a magazine called Bizarre. It was like a fetish magazine. I think he had a couple of issues that were, I'm not sure if they were just comics, but he had a couple of those. He had this supersized From Sex to Sexty or something. That there's this comedy humor smutty type of magazine. I've seen them on eBay a ton. They don't look that interesting, to be honest, but the versions he had were almost like treasury size, which were kind of interesting. I am not requesting a Wicked Wanda tongue twister, but I've wanted that Wicked Wanda stuff for a while. He has some great things, but it's just the price is just too high. And the Wicked Wanda one, the condition that it was in too, was not really, I think he had $120. Fuck the people. I can't stop focusing on the chat. He had $120 on it, and that's not even a place to start bargaining. If he had 60, I would have offered him 50, and I would have felt comfortable with buying it for that. But honestly, it was a little intense. What else did I get from there? That might have been it from the convention. Like I said, very limited bucks in my pocket. Yeah, that is all that I got. Afterwards, I went to, let's catch up with the chat here for a sec, just so I can put this out of my mind for a minute. 4 issues. Okay, Bigfoot. I got the whole series. It was 4 issues. Hard to get, but finally managed. Keeping an eye out for it, but I don't know about the writers. Yeah, exactly. I don't know about the writers either. Fuck Rob Zombie. Him and his stupid fucking wife as well. Fuck them both. I still need the Corbin Bigfoot books. Nice. I forgot those existed. I need to re-get Vic Blood issues too. Yeah. Yes, Vic and Blood is good. Rob Zombie and Corbin, didn't know that existed. Yeah, there's always more. Corbin is exactly right. Yeah, I know that you would know who he is for sure, 420. I think when he was set up at Thirsties as well, he had a similar, it was a bit chaotic in his little booth to look through things, but the prices were pretty steep on the stuff he had, and I think he mostly didn't get people digging through his stuff. So I think he didn't last very long there, because you've got to kind of, again, it's this thing of like, you've got to move stuff, so you got to price it to be moved. Yeah, all the later Corbin work popped up while I was away from comics. It was nice to discover it, and I'm still discovering it. Yeah, his prices are maybe similar to online. I mean, I would say so, yeah, especially for that book. And then you're still, but the thing is, having them similar to online, if they're selling, is one thing, but having them similar to what they're selling for online, cut to 3 years later, you're still selling it for that same price. You might want to reconsider. Recently discovered Corbin's Aliens miniseries. So after I went to that, dropped my son off, went to 204 Comics to see Ashley. There was nothing in my pull box. He had a couple of freebies that I couldn't say no to, even though I've read these already. Superman for All Seasons. I don't know if it's a free comic book day thing, or I'm not sure. Oh, it was Superman Day. That's what it was for. And then there was also a free All-Star Superman #1. So I grabbed one of each of those, because why not? And then in his bins with boxes of books and magazines, he's got his dollar bin section in filing cabinets. On top, there's always cardboard boxes with hardcovers, soft covers, floppies that are bagged, floppies that aren't, for a variety of prices. I think the hardcovers are $5 each. I don't remember. But he had this one sealed, Strange Tales, the kind of alternative comics artists versions of Strange Tales. So I've got all these in singles. I've never seen the collection. I basically, I wanted it with the hopes that maybe there was something extra in it. There isn't, so this might go in the to trade away pile. So Dan Elson, if you're still here, if you need this, I'd be glad to add this to the stack that I'm going to be sending you. This is a really, really fun series. There's some Jim Rugg in here as well. As you've seen, there's Paul Pope in here. Kochalka is in here. Pete Bagg is obviously in here as well. Who else is in here? Nick Bertozzi. Yes, of course, Tony Millionaire. Yes, doing some amazing looking Iron Man stuff. You do have the singles. Okay, good. So I'll maybe hold on to this for Rasa. This will probably go in the Rasa Christmas pile. Just don't tell her. Some Brother Voodoo by Jim Rugg. So really fun series. If you don't know it, it's worth hunting down. Yeah. So there you go. And he also had, I've seen this before, and it kind of half caught my attention, but when I see it for $5, couldn't resist. Django Hand on Fire, the great Django Reinhardt. I don't know if this is a one shot. I'm assuming it's a one shot from NBM. So a nice European sized graphic album. The art looks really great. Yeah, I'll be curious how this is. And like I said, for $5, it would be silly to pass on it. I think that's, and then the last thing that I got from him. So this will take us into talking about what I read this week. Picked up an issue of Strange Tales, number 162, filled in a gap for me with the Strange Tales collection. I'm slowly getting more and more of these. I'm trying to eventually maybe get most of the Doctor Strange related Strange Tales. There's a couple of the early ones that I don't think I'll ever stand a chance on. This was a really great read. I only read the Doctor Strange half. Of course, at the beginning is Nick Fury and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Stan Lee and Steranko. Haven't dug into this one yet, but it looks really sharp. But what we're here for is our good Doctor Strange, which it's so funny reading some of this stuff and wondering how on earth this particular character and strip became so popular. It's amazing that it did, because I think that no matter who draws Doctor Strange, generally it's always very imaginative. You often get some panels, some storytelling, some background that just are something like you haven't really seen in other Marvel comics at the time. So this one is Jim Lawrence and Dan Adkins, and of course Stan Lee. Lettered by Sam Rosen, loused up by Irving Forbush. So not much here in the way of story, but the dialogue always kind of sticks with me. And sometimes in stuff like this, he's basically like Doctor Strange. Sometimes is just like some very religious kind of zealot with his lines like, praise be to the all-seeing Agamotto, which does ever protect me. So very bizarre comic, very bizarre stuff. Baron Mordo in it. And we also get a bonus of this here too. Some outer space Doctor Strange. He's just a really great designed character. I love the cape. I love the gloves. Everything about him is really so goddamn good. So, and it's in beautiful shape considering the price. It was $15. I've gotten a few Strange Tales from Ashley over the years at 204, and he does really good. His pricing is always incredible, but honestly, the kind of grades that he usually has, like these, I find they're just really affordable. It's not like ridiculously priced, like 30, 40, $50, which I don't know what this goes for in this condition, but super happy with it. It's all together. He'll also sometimes have stuff in the Strange Tales bin there where it's really ratty and really been read, which is fantastic, but I kind of want the books as a whole. Let's see. My recent Corbin pickups were a couple of Swamp Thing issues and the Banner Hulk miniseries. That's another one that's been hard for me to find, the Banner miniseries. Haven't found the aliens yet. I've almost no experience with Doctor Strange comics, but would love to know a good place to start. Honestly, Dan, I think you can't go wrong with starting with the Ditko Strange Tale stuff. I'm sure that there's a collection or two out there. I would say get it in color. I don't know how easy some of this stuff is to find, but I got this quite a while back. The Marvel Essential Doctor Strange, and this one it's still really great to get an intro to the character and to read some of the stories. It is in black and white, which I actually really liked. It was a fantastic way to read this stuff. This is many years ago that I grabbed this one, but there's an extra layer to the ones that are colored. It just, yeah, as nice as it is to see the kind of like line work in this format, the colors really add an extra dimension to the Doctor Strange world. So I would say starting from the early days is the best way to go, to be fair. The other thing that I did get, let's finish this. I did find a run of Aliens Earth Wars in a 50-cent bin that surprised me with its glorious Sam Keith interiors. I'd forgotten about this. Start with an eighth of shrooms. Read anything. Oh, cool. Didn't know about the Sam Keith issues. Love Doctor Strange. There's a stray issue or two by Mike Golden from the first volume. There's one guy at the show with a bunch of 12-cent Strange Tales. Seem like average $25. Some more, some less. Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that because there was a couple of tables that I tried to kind of circle back to, but they were always jam-packed with people, so I couldn't even get in to flip through the boxes. I love Sam Keith and buy everything by the guy, and I love that Earth War series, but it got slammed by fans in all the letters pages of issues that followed. Yeah, the Steve Englehart Doctor Strange run is a fun trip too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was alchemy as well too. That sounds right to me there, Chris. Yeah, the coloring is always an issue. And then the other thing that came out, it's not part of my pull list. I thought it was part of my pull list, but maybe I haven't added it. This is Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 2. Picking up right from where it left off with issue 1. Still having our main character dealing with what the hell is going on with me. Am I going crazy? But we get immediately introduced to a guy who is also claiming he's seeing Martians. And he's dealing with it in a much different way. He's going out and killing people because he feels that there's a takeover happening. So while we kind of get led down the path of what his mission is, we just get a little bit more backstory. We get a little bit more insight into what his powers are. He's starting to realize that, no, there is something going on here. Maybe I'm not crazy. I'm reading people's thoughts. I'm being led down this path here, being told about this gunman. It becomes reality, and he goes and confronts him. Really great stuff. Every single page. There's stuff like this. I was saying to Rasa this afternoon, this really reminds me of Dan Clowes. There's something about those two panels specifically that really look like a Clowes bit of art. As you can see, the art is the fucking main draw here. But honestly, like the Zatanna, this story isn't so bad either. It's not it's not a struggle to get through. This Zatanna one was pretty fun to read as well. You're not changing the world with this storytelling, but it is nice to have something that's not like a real fucking chore to get from page to page on. It flows really nicely. It's a pretty neat idea, especially when he tries to kind of bond with this gunman. Martian Manhunter is in his head and kind of feeding him information about his past. So it's allowing him to kind of try to identify with this gunman. And I won't kind of spoil the ending. Maybe I'll just show you up to here. But really, really cool. So the cops come. He kind of waves them off as he kind of continues the conversation with him because he's starting to win him over. So solid stuff. If you're not reading it, If you're interested in picking up floppies, I think personally it's worth it, but this can also be a trade weight for sure. Just finished reading that Zatanna book this morning. Thanks again for the recommendation on the one. Awesome. I'm glad you grabbed it. Oh, shut up. Are you serious? I haven't received mine yet there, Chris. I didn't force you to buy it. You thought it was going to be some smutty nonsense and you couldn't, your fingers couldn't move fast enough. So how does it look? Because what I was seeing on camera on that guy's channel, it looked incredible. Sorry, food break, apparently. Yes. Seasons number 3. I was going to save these to talk with Rasa, but I was talking to her this afternoon, and it sounds like issues 2 and 3 have massively been delayed in the UK. She was saying that her comic guy got a box, and it had some of the number 2s in it. The box was fucking destroyed, and he had to send and get reimbursed with the stuff from his order. He's still waiting for that box. I got it delivered to my grandmother's house just in case it was smut. Amazing. And then you have to fight her for it. Yeah. That's funny. So seasons number 3 isn't even in her shop yet. I don't know if I have too much to say about this. I do like the idea. It was the book that I wasn't sold on the first issue. I'm always willing to give some Remender a chance, but I thought that first issue really didn't do much for me. The chasing the letter through the town kind of thing. This one's a little better. We're meeting one of her sisters. We're seeing some of her home life. We're getting a little bit more of the backstory of our kind of seasonal sisters and how they interact and maybe what some of the problems are. So it's been quite a few weeks since I've read it. So more details than that, I'm afraid I don't quite remember, but enjoyable stuff. I do like the art and the coloring style too. Yeah, like I said, not too much to say about that one. I'm going to stick with it though. And someday we will get Gromit's issue number 7. That will come out eventually. Don't know why it's taking so long, but it is. I think I talked about this one, Daredevil Unleash Hell. Ghost Rider is in it, I think, in this one, and they end up going to hell to kind of continue fighting, I think, with this Muse character. So this is Elektra as Daredevil. And yeah, I mean, obviously I'm enjoying something about it because I have 3 issues of it at this point. It's fast. It's quickly fading from my mind, though. We'll see if I remember to pick up issue 4 when I see it. Famous Monsters. This is The Mummy by Faith Erin Hicks and Lee Louridge. Issue number 1. I liked the Frankenstein one, and I really liked the Dracula one. Was there a Creature from the Black Lagoon? I wasn't so crazy about that first issue, so I never picked up any more. But I wanted to try this first issue of The Mummy. I don't mind this, actually. It's a little bit more in... Maybe it was Damien that said this too. It's a little bit more in kind of like the YA style of comic art. I don't mind that. I think it looks nice. I think the thing that appealed to me the most about Dracula, that first series, was that art really stood out as something exceptional. It made it feel a little bit more than just let's just make some series with the famous monster line from Filmland. So it's not bad. I wouldn't say it's great. It's another one where if I saw it and I remembered, I'd probably pick up issue 2, but I don't know if I'm going to kind of go out of my way to find this. It was fine. But for my money, the Dracula one is worth it. That first one. Frankenstein would be a second. So with Dan Elson in the house, let's talk some books that he was kind enough to send along. I can't get enough of Howarth. So especially when there's an entire miniseries, Savage Henry Headstrong 3-issue miniseries from Iconographics. There was a Savage Henry regular series, and then there was a few spin-offs that were these miniseries. This stuff really is Howarth's chance to talk music that's influenced him and include people in the comic, musicians in the comic. Conrad Schnitzler's course is in here. Ron Geeson and Fraser Geeson, maybe is how you pronounce the last names, are in here. Fraser apparently is Fraser's the son. He eventually, I think, got into comics as well too. Ron Geeson has worked with people like Pink Floyd, I think, and maybe some John Waters solo as well. I know the name. I'm not super familiar with his music, though, to be honest, and I haven't really done a dive. This isn't my favorite stuff, if I'm honest. I think the 3rd issue was my favorite out of these. I found that there was a little too much kind of name dropping throughout the book, really playing and having those kind of band names be front and center. What I did love about each of these issues are the kind of notes and the extras at the back of the book. It really makes it feel like a Howarth zine. I kind of almost wish that there was a 50-50, like something maybe twice the thickness. Half of it is comics, half of it is writing, and kind of mixed. I would love to see his version of like a music fanzine. So he talks about the Geesons. He talks just kind of about the series. He does a bunch of reviews of some new music coming out. And then it's always hit with a bunch of ads at the back as well for his other stuff. And every single issue has that backup where you get a couple of pages of music reviews. And it's great. It's really, really great to see this stuff. He writes really well about it in these kind of little short paragraphs. But there's been a couple of things that I read here that I would love to kind of dig into a little bit more. There's a lot of this stuff that's kind of a genre that I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. Like he talks about Robert Fripp, for example. I'm not a big Fripper head, I guess. I think Conrad Schnitzler, of course. I think he starts getting into Aphex Twin stuff as well too. He at least name drops Aphex Twin in the series as well. Not that I dislike Aphex Twin. It's never been an artist that I've been a huge fan of, though. So there's some of this kind of psychedelic electronic music that I can deal with, and some that I'm not as crazy about. So this is the 3rd issue, which I think was the best one. Savage Henry's muse that lives in his brain gets killed. So he makes a deal with the gods to become his own muse. In the Savage Henry universe, all muses are female, so he gets turned into a woman, but has a mind-blowing set with the bull daggers, and he kind of is just kind of clearly on a high from a creativity boost. Cthulhu is in the band. Lord Cthulhu is in the band, which, as I've said before, he's always one of my favorites from Savage Henry stuff. So it kind of gets dealt with there that he can't actually keep existing as this muse. He's got to have a muse in his head, but he wants the kind of creative energy coming directly to him, not filtered through a muse. So he makes a deal with the gods, and everything is kind of back to normal. Caroline is happy. So it had its moments for sure. I think maybe it was issue 1 that really didn't do too much for me. 2 and 3 were a little bit better. I don't know if it's somewhere that I would recommend for anybody who hasn't read Howarth. I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend this stuff unless you were a big music fan and knew about Cluster and Klaus Schultz and all of those kind of people, and Schnitzler. If you knew about those musicians and were fans, I think that would be a great way to kind of get into some of his comics, because it's really steeped in that type of music. My least favorite style of art. Yeah, it seems like a good YA comic. I just wasn't ready for it. Glad you dug them, or at least the back matter. Gotta say, I love me some Fripp. Yeah. The other one that I read was Lonely Nights Comics. Man, oh man, was this ever good. This kind of took me by surprise again with this idea of when you start to get into a particular subgenre, in this case, like underground comics, you kind of get the sense at some point, especially with underground comics, it feels like there's a more finite amount that is. It's not like I'm trying to collect every single comic that's ever been made or every single X-Men comic that's ever been made. It feels like if you tried to collect underground comics, not saying it would be easy to get everything, but it does feel like more of an attainable goal. And even if it's not, you tend to see the same things all the time. Even today, I was seeing a lot of the same kind of underground comics that I've got sometimes one or two issues of. So this is Dory Sita, who, again, a name I am not familiar with. And I'm blanking on if she worked at Last Gasp and then also did comics. I guess she had a comic strip that kind of shot her into infamy within underground comics, where she was talking about having sex with her dog. So right off the bat, we get a story with her and her dog. It's a lot focused on her sexual life. She's since passed. I can't remember when she died, but it was quite a long time ago. And I think this was put together by Don Donahue and some people, this particular issue, as kind of, after her death, a kind of trying to put together some sort of tribute and a collection of her work to kind of honor her memory. And I got to say, I really enjoyed this. It's the art style is pretty incredible. The stories are bonkers and funny and fun. She has kind of a Justin Green energy to her art style. It was a dense read, so it wasn't something I sat and read cover to cover. I kind of read a couple of stories over 2 or 3 nights, but really, really good stuff. I really dug this a lot. So thank you very much for that one, Dan. I think that bag is a little too small for that one. Continuing on, I did dig into Skin. So Skin is an infamous book that I think has been banned in multiple regions of the world, published by Tundra. It's Peter Milligan and Brendan McCarthy and Carol Swain. I think that's it. Yes. So it's about a skinhead who is a thalidomide baby. My wife's father is a thalidomide baby. Currently in Canada, there's a program where thalidomide babies can kind of fill out some forms to get some reimbursement. So the basics I know about thalidomide is it was an experimental drug that was offered to mothers, I think, that were really dealing with like nausea. And it was kind of like a not a muscle relaxant, like a sedative, I guess maybe is the best way to say it. Wonder drug invented in Germany in the 1950s, marketed as a sedative pill. So there was claims that the drug was completely safe for pregnant women, but no adequate tests, which were available at the time, were carried out to discover whether the drug would pass the placenta and therefore affect the unborn child. So it had quite an effect on kids, all sorts of deformities, all sorts of things. So my wife's father, for example, has one of his legs, it's a foot kind of growing out of his hip, so not a complete leg. So it's playing a bit with the idea of this is someone that you should not necessarily feel sorry for, but we're supposed to have empathy for. But this guy's a real shithead. So it plays kind of with that idea that what do we do with a character like this, that we have sympathy for his life. He's got 6 fingers on each of his hands. But he's just a prick. He's a skinhead and he's just a prick. I enjoyed the read. I guess I can kind of see why it would get people might have an issue with it. When it comes to that kind of stuff, though, I say that stuff out loud and then I immediately think everybody should lighten the fuck up a little bit. It's a comic, I guess. The intent is to kind of play with those. I feel like the intent is very clear that they're playing with those ideas, playing with your sympathy, versus your dislike for someone. I'll also say Brendan McCarthy's art in this is like I've never seen before. I don't know if it's pastels. I don't know if it's crayons or pencil crayons, but there's a much different look to his art with this one. Much different. So I liked it. I don't know if I loved it, but I did enjoy it. And it is kind of, there's moments that are darkly humorous, just in kind of his ability to draw this guy. And again, like, I'm not winning any fans over here by saying things like that, but I mean, there's just something amusing about that image, and that's just a fact. And I don't know what to do with that. That's just kind of how I see it. And that has nothing to do with anything else other than it's an image in a comic. So, yeah, it's weird talking about this kind of stuff. I don't, like I said, and maybe I didn't say it, I don't know the context of when this came out. I don't know any specifics of what people had said about it. So there's a lot of gaps that I probably don't have filled in that might be interesting to see what's out there. I'm sure there's something on the old internets. Skin was a really intense read. Great art, but just a crazy book overall. Haven't seen Skin in ages. Great art. Worked at a comic shop when that came out. Total flashback to see this. What was the response like at the comic shop when it came out? If you remember. Another one I won't spend too much time on. Sacrificers, issue number 15. I didn't read the back matter in this, so Rasa was saying that in the back matter they talk about taking a break and coming back, I believe, later in the summer is maybe what they said. Having these gaps between the issues does make it a little bit difficult at times. And I think it's kind of accentuated with Remender because, again, Gromit's just has one more fucking issue to come and the miniseries is over. It's really taking the steam out of my sails for that book that I was really enjoying. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy the last issue as well, but when these kind of breaks happen, I understand if you're in the middle of a longer arc and you've got maybe another dozen issues that you want to kind of start getting the jump on, but one more issue. Now this one is on a bit of a hiatus. I think Seasons is okay so far, but it feels like maybe he has a little bit too much out there right now, that it would be better to have kind of half the titles and things come out on a regular schedule as opposed to multiple options for him that are sort of coming out on some sort of schedule, you know. So it was a solid issue. It does kind of take the wind out of your sails, though, when you do have to wait. I feel like this is wrapping up as well, too. So I would kind of like to just kind of keep it going as quick as possible to the end, or at least semi-regularly. An expensive new issue. This is going to be a 3-issue miniseries, Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. I'll show you a little bit of this. Yeah, give us that last grommets already. I've been getting Sacrificers, but haven't read any past number 1 yet, and I'm kind of glad that I saved them up to be able to just binge them without delay. Yeah, exactly, and I think that's probably the best way to read them too. Started from the beginning. I've watched some Ghost Critic after Damien talking about him a few years back. RIP to him, yes. The response to Skin was my boss was really into it. We coveted any release that stood out and had great art. So me, him, and a core group of customers would buy it. Can't recall any bad feedback. Well, there you go. Thanks for that. Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. Charles Soule, Steve McNiven, 3-issue miniseries, $10 Canadian for one fucking issue. And I guess it's pretty close to a double-sized issue. That would sting a lot more if this book wasn't so goddamn good. This was such a good issue. This is such an intriguing start. Where in the future, Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is an old man. He's lost his powers. That's kind of what we figure out in like maybe probably the first 3 pages. So far from a spoiler. I'll just show you a couple of more pages. I'll stop at a certain point, though, because I don't want to give anything away. as we kind of continue through the story, you get a little bit more insight into the world. You get a little bit more context of who he is now and how his life is. I think Damien said it in his video as well too. Stuff like this, it really reminds me of kind of bande dessinée, like European style art. There's a beautiful look to it. Such an intriguing story, and I think what that intro sold me. I'll show you these last 2 pages, and then we won't go any further. Up until this point, I was already sold, and once I kind of finished the issue, I was even more invested. This might be a one just due to the price, potentially, that people wait for. Yeah, I won't show you any more pictures there. Potentially waiting till this gets collected and buying it as one might be a better way to go for this one, but that's only because I'm guessing that each issue is going to be the same price. And I tell you, I think on that trip, I bought 3 new comics. And when I saw my total, I was floored. And again, I've got a minuscule pull list these days, so it's not a huge concern for me because I'm not spending that much on new books. I just don't understand. And again, not to continually throw Damien out there, but watching Sleepy Readers videos, the amount of books that he gets on the weekly, it's sometimes kind of mind-boggling. Obviously, Damien is in a different spot, and he can afford it, and he's comfortable with it. And there's no judgment there whatsoever. It's just when I think of that, it's just bonkers to me how much these things can be as brand new books. And to kind of then pay it if there's something that you're not into, just seems like, man, these companies are trying to drain every last dime out of us. And then add to that the 17 different covers on the Ninja Turtles book or whatever it happens to be. But all of that is an aside. If you can afford it, add this to your pull list, and I think you won't be disappointed if you're a fan of Daredevil. If you're interested and want to wait, I would say wait with 3 issues. If everything stays on time, Rick Remender isn't at the helm, so we should be good. If everything stays on time, that release should come out pretty soon. There's a couple of things that I didn't end up talking about that were on kind of a pre-order list that just continually got delayed. So I finally got, this was a few weeks ago, actually. I don't think I ever talked about it. This is Den, the Richard Corbin Library. This is book number 5. This is the end of the Den story arc that Dark Horse is doing. Again, I have these as singles, or maybe this particular last book, maybe I don't have all of them. I might be, because I think this is the one that was released kind of magazine size, so I might be missing an issue of this. This is also his early experiments with computer coloring, so digital coloring, and it really is apparent in some moments, but it absolutely isn't in others, and it looks like even blending photography in with his cartooning. It's gorgeous. It was a pretty great read overall, honestly. It's pretty goddamn fun. There was a panel here I wanted to show you. I think there's one kind of a throwback to Grim Wit. So this is the same kind of characters that were on the cover of Grim Wit. So kind of doing a throwback to his early underground days. And of course, the back matter is phenomenal. There's the usual inclusion of the letters pages from that original run. And Villarrubia does a bit of a write-up too on the reproduction. I think it's Villarrubia that does one. Let's see here. Well, maybe he doesn't in this one. No, I'm wrong. So we just get some cover gallery as well, too, cover gallery art. So with that done, next is Will World, which is the previously never before released graphic novel that Corbin was working on before he passed, and finished up by Jose as well too. I'm very excited about that. I don't know when that comes out. After that one is Rolf. I think I saw him talking about, it might have been on Facebook, might have been on Twitter, that he's currently working on recoloring this one, The New Tales of the Arabian Nights. I think I also heard him talking about Bloodstar, which would be exciting. Those two are probably my favorite Corbin books. Dimwood is late June. Thank you, Dan. Those are two of my favorite Corbin books. So I'm really looking forward to having a nice Corbin library. I'm glad that they're kind of staying on somewhat of a schedule, sort of consistently coming out. What are we at now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books total in the library. So really, really great. Another one that I had ordered that finally came in was Her Frankenstein. Living the Line has a sub-label called Smudge. Ryan Holmberg is at the helm of this one. Ryan Holmberg, everybody's favorite manga translator. It seems like he's had his hands in a number of incredible things. The second book was UFO Mushroom Invasion. And a couple of days after getting Her Frankenstein, the bookstore got in Mansect, which is one of the newer ones. There's a Man Meat, I think might be the next one that's coming out. I just saw on Instagram, the Living the Line Instagram page showed some proofs that they got. So it hasn't been bound yet. He's just approved. They just approved the proofs from the printer. They're using a printer in Quebec, apparently, what they said in that post. This is the one that I wanted to talk about. This one wasn't bad. It had some good moments in it. I don't know if it was my favorite out of the three. I think that this one kind of took the cake for me. This was a really, really oddball read. Some amazing art. One of the things that I love about some of this stuff is some artists' ability to kind of blend styles. There's so many nods to kind of very traditional and even like kids type of manga later on, almost looking like some characters look like they walked out of Astro Boy. Then there's some characters look like they're highly photo referenced. Then when the creatures start to come, it's really great kind of horror style, again, with something that seems very photo referenced, that image especially there. I'm sure I've seen around. Let's get to some of them. And then you get some stuff like this where we get a little more, I don't know, unusual and a little bit darker in a very cartoony, dark kind of horror way. So the very, very basic premise is that there's some form of transformation that is going on with some humans based on some sort of insect infection. What it's triggering, though, is it's triggering humans to start mutating into a different form of human. It's starting a next evolutionary phase for humanity. Everybody, the few people that are infected by it, they are kind of cocooning and reemerging as a completely new beast. Let's see if I can find an image to show you. It has all sorts, so it makes you age rapidly is the first thing that happens. Then you sort of cocoon up and you start to look like a creature kind of like this that we've also seen on the front cover here. And it just gets bonkers from there. So they kind of use that basic premise to then tell a few sort of short stories. So at a point, it almost turns into a bit of a horror anthology, but all of the stories tie in together and do get wrapped up by the end. I really liked this book a lot. There were so many moments, and I love all this creature art. I think is fantastic. Talking about that Blind Dead stuff that I was before, there's a real similarity from that to this as well too. There's a real nice kind of gritty horror element to it. Let's see if I can find a couple more images for you. So if you don't know any of the Smudge stuff, so yeah, there's a creature emerging from the human cocoon. I won't spoil the ending. It goes even further than what I was talking about there. We get some demons making an appearance as well too. So out of the 3 Smudge books that have been out, this is the one that I would recommend first. If you can get your hands on this one, I would say start here. I enjoyed UFO Mushroom Invasion. That would kind of be my second recommendation. And I would say this comes third. But honestly, if you see any of these, I wouldn't hesitate to give any of them a try. I think this is going to be a really fun line. I don't know how many more books they're planning to put out under this imprint, but yeah, I'm in. This was so goddamn good. Probably the read of the week, I'm guessing. Solid stuff. And then finally, I'm not finished it, but I'm a couple of issues into Rain. Shout out to Nate for sending Rain again, another Tundra release. This is an intense read that I don't think I fully comprehended when I first got the issues, because I think there was a lot of confusion on my part as to what was going on because I was missing some issues. Let's start off with the fucking story from goddamn Taboo. This is probably one of the darkest stories I think I've ever read in comics. This is a fucking intense experience. What we basically have is a German soldier waking up with his family to have breakfast with them before he goes off to work, where they're gassing prisoners, killing prisoners. He's got a shed where he has one woman tied up in, that he goes and and ends up, well, not kind of, he goes and rapes her. And it just gets darker from there. It is an intense fucking read and really sets the stage for the rest of the book. Once we kind of get into Rain, the Rain story itself, I've read 2 issues of it. Our main character was in Germany. I'm assuming Berlin. It doesn't ever really say specifically. And getting bombed is some of his earliest memories of living in Germany. He ends up. So I don't know how much of this story is autobiographical versus biographical fiction. I don't know how much is being elaborated on. From what I do understand, the artist Rolf Stark, this is some stuff that's based on his real life. I just don't know how much of it is based on it. So when this bombing happens, everybody runs to the shelters, and that's where kind of things get a little dark there. He remembers the sound and the smell of people dying as they're getting gassed and things. So it's an intense experience, and I think the topic itself is fairly intense, but the storytelling and his art style make that experience even more visceral. This page here, it took me a couple of minutes as I was reading it to realize that we're witnessing a car crash here. And he's a taxi driver. He's got a passenger in the back. And when you kind of realize that, because the art style is the way that it is, he still does an amazing job at kind of this very animated type point by point storytelling, panel to panel transitions. You can get the sense of movement in there. You can feel the impact. He starts flashing back, and so there's some storytelling that's happening in the past mixed with some storytelling that's currently happening. Because it's right after the accident that this stuff is happening, you get that sense of disorientation that the character himself is feeling, again, due to the kind of sometimes dense pages with very thick line work. So it really does an excellent job of drawing you into this Rolf Stark's universe. But it is one that I'm kind of taking my time with. Some just wild figure drawing here as well too. Really, really, really good stuff. I'm kind of, I knew that I would be. I'm kind of blown away by this. I don't think Rolf had much by way of a comics career. He had a moment there where he seemed to be appearing in a number of different places. But I don't know what he went off into. I think I might have looked him up at one point, and I couldn't really find too much information. Maybe it's time to do another dig. So the next issue, he flashes to his time spent in Africa, I believe, and this is where things get a little muddy with the storytelling because there's a lot of flashback. I think he was part of a military squad that was sent into some regions to kind of. He doesn't say it explicitly. They were a commando squad, I think, sent in to clean up some violent uprisings. So far, it's not clear. He's still kind of, I think at this point, he's still kind of struggling with his past. He's now been arrested for a hit and run. He's now in the hospital. The woman who was in the cab with him, she's in the hospital and she's very much disfigured. So he's kind of going to the next room to visit her and kind of see how she's doing. So there's a real sense of current madness and trauma mixed with his kind of past trauma. So we're getting bits and pieces of his life. I'm sure we're going to get to a point where it all gets more fully realized. But yeah, this is a hell of a reading experience. Very unlike anything I've read before. So huge shout out to Nate for sending me this collected edition. I think I'm still missing one of the single issues of Rain, but it's great to have it all in this book form. It's not an easy one to find, but I think if you watch this channel and you're ever interested in some of these more oddball titles that I talk about, really give this a shot if you come across this, even just a single issue, to kind of see the art for yourself. Let's see, what did I miss? Dimwood is late June. Mine as well. Those two are Essential Corbin. Yeah, those two are for sure. Mansec, never seen. Great title. Killer cover. Wow, yeah, Mansec just made the want list. That looks rad. It's really great. I've only read my Mushroom Smudge book. I need to get the others still. They weren't easy to find, that's for damn sure. And that Her Frankenstein was the first release that they did at Smudge, and it just took forever to kind of get in at the bookstore. Yeah, I'm getting it. Do I order it straight from Living in Line? You can, absolutely. It might be more affordable for you because I think they are based in the United States, even though they were using this Canadian printer. I think both of them are based in the United States from Living the Line. But yeah, I mean, I would suggest for you, go straight to them and get it from them. I ordered it from a bookstore here, a local one. Holmberg said Smudge will be quarterly. That's a lot. Wow. Quarterly for how long? How many years? Crazy. Have never seen Rain in my life. Maybe saw some individual Rain issues, but that graphic novel book is new to me. For a second, I thought it was Captain Beefheart. I can absolutely see that. Captain Beefheart book from the guy on the cover. That's 100% who that looks like. Absolutely. So maybe there was a little bit of photo reference for that. Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, I got Rain #1 recently based on your suggestion. I'll have to read it tonight. I own them all. I just haven't read them. Hard for me to start horror, but I generally like it when I start. Rain, you're talking about. Yeah. And I honestly don't know if it's something that you can sit and read all at once. I certainly couldn't. Because it's a very overwhelming artistic experience. You're really hit with a lot. Those pages start to look dark overall. The tone of the book is very dark as well too, so I think it captures that kind of horror element incredibly well. What else did I read? I don't think there was anything else. What do I have sitting here? No, that is it. Thanks very much, everybody. Nice to see everybody hanging out. I'll try to remember to put links for the Art Spiegelman stuff. What else do we talk about? I'll put a link to Ghost Critic's channel for anybody that wants to dip into his world. I would suggest there's on his channel, if you go to the live tab, I'll share the screen here as well. We'll show one last Ghost Critic bit before we sign off. If you go to the live chat, the live tab right away, so you think #1, there's Costin Bromstar, Scott right there. There's, I think it's this episode where he talks with Dr. Monkeybot. One of these episodes where he talks to Howler Mouse. Oh no, there's Constant Bromstar again there. Is this one maybe Howler Mouse? One of these is Howler Mouse. Yeah, there we go. There's a young Tim. So check out some of that stuff, but have a look through his videos. Just a really good human being. He will be missed. He has been missed since he's been away from YouTube. So I'll leave that link in there as well too. Right on, everybody. Awesome show, incredible books. Constant Bromstar, man, I miss his videos. Yeah, he was great. Scott was a really good guy. Awesome show, incredible books. Thank you very much to the Library 88. And thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out. And we'll talk to you later.